Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, another exciting deep dive into the incredible world of coins. Today's journey takes us into the heart of American history with a coin so small, so ordinary, that most people pass it over every single day without giving it a second thought. Yet hidden within this coin is a story of legacy, rarity, and the possibility of a fortune. We are talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from the year 1963, a coin that may just be sitting in your pocket change or resting unnoticed in a jar somewhere in your home. But as you'll soon discover, this humble little penny has secrets that could change everything. Now let's rewind back to 1963. America was in the midst of dramatic change. It was a year of hope, ambition, and turmoil. President John F. Kennedy was in the White House, civil rights movements were sweeping the nation, and the United States was in a fierce race for space exploration with the Soviet Union. It was a period that shaped the modern world as we know it. In the middle of this transformative era, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of coins for everyday transactions, and among those coins was the 1963 Lincoln cent. The Lincoln cent design itself already carried a powerful legacy. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than an allegorical symbol. Victor David Brenner's design quickly became a national symbol. On the obverse, the strong yet kind face of Lincoln looks proudly forward, a reminder of leadership through one of the darkest times in American history. On the reverse side, the iconic wheat ears design had been retired by 1963, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This new design showed the grand neoclassical structure in Washington, D.C., and if you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even spot a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial itself. By 1963, the Lincoln cent was being struck in both Philadelphia and Denver mints, with no mint mark for Philadelphia and a small D for Denver. Billions of these pennies were produced, making it one of the most common coins of the era. So the natural question arises, how could something produced in such staggering numbers ever become rare or valuable? The answer lies in the details, the quality of the strike, the condition of the coin, and the rare quirks of minting that create rare varieties. Let's start with condition. Coins are graded on a scale from well-worn, good condition all the way up to the prestigious mint state 70, which represents perfection under magnification. Most Lincoln cents from 1963 have been heavily circulated, showing scratches, discoloration, and smoothing from decades of use. But if a coin somehow survived untouched, preserved in its original brilliance, it instantly leaps in value. A sharp, red-tone 1963 cent in mint state condition with blazing luster is a prize that collectors will pay dearly for. Now consider errors. During the mass production of billions of pennies, mistakes inevitably slipped through. A double die, where the design is imprinted twice with a slight shift, creates letters or numbers that look doubled under magnification. These double dies are incredibly popular among collectors. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, are another type of error that sparks collector excitement. There are also clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is cut away, and even rare transitional planchet errors where the wrong metal was used. Any one of these oddities from 1963 could elevate a simple penny into the realm of serious collector money, but let's go even deeper. The Lincoln cent of 1963 wasn't just a coin, it was a reflection of its time. Copper was still the primary metal used, giving the penny its warm reddish hue. This was just before the big changes of 1982 when the composition was shifted to mostly zinc. That makes these earlier all-copper coins feel more solid, more authentic, and more historical. Holding a 1963 penny is like holding a small, tangible piece of early 1960s America. Collectors often talk about the emotional connection coins bring. Think about it, this little penny may have passed through thousands of hands. Maybe it was part of change handed to someone filling up their gas tank for just 30 cents a gallon. Maybe it was in a child's pocket on the first day of school. Maybe it helped buy a ticket to a movie theater showing Cleopatra or The Great Escape. Every coin has a story, and the older it is, the more lives it has quietly touched. That's part of what makes finding one in pristine condition so thrilling, because it feels almost impossible that something so small and so used could have survived all those years without a single mark, and that's why the 1963 Lincoln penny is so fascinating. It sits at the crossroads of history and value. To most people it's just 1 cent, but to collectors, in the right condition or with the right era, it becomes a treasure that embodies not just money but history, artistry, and rarity. Now imagine for a moment that you stumble across one of these special coins. You see the date, 1963. The coin glows with a fiery red tone, no scratches, no wear, every detail sharp, the memorial lines crisp, Lincoln's face untouched by time. Maybe you even notice something unusual, a doubling in the lettering, or the coin struck slightly off-center. At first glance, it's just a penny. But as you look closer, you realize you might be holding a coin that could change your life. That is the thrill of coin collecting. That is why these stories matter, and now, here comes the part you've been waiting for, the jaw-dropping truth about just how valuable the right 1963 Lincoln penny can be. While the majority are worth only their face value, the rarest and most exceptional examples, flawless mint state coins or those with dramatic and desirable errors, have crossed into the realm of serious money. In fact, one of these rare Lincoln cents from 1963 has reached an astonishing value of $86,000, yes, you heard that right. A coin worth just a single cent at the time of its minting has the power today to command $86,000. Think about that, a coin you could easily overlook in your change jar could be worth more than a brand new luxury car, or even a down payment on a home. So the next time you spot a 1963 penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look, check its shine, examine its details, and maybe even pull out a magnifying glass. You never know if you're staring at one of those incredible rarities. Because in the world of coins, it's always the smallest details that hold the biggest rewards. Today we are going to shine a spotlight on a coin that millions of Americans have handled without a second thought, yet in rare cases it has proven to be worth an unbelievable amount of money. It's small, it's simple, and it's one of the most familiar coins in the United States. We are talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from the year 1978. At first glance, it looks like just another penny in your change, but as we'll see, the story of this coin is deeper, richer, and more surprising than most people could ever imagine. To really understand the magic behind the 1978 Lincoln penny, we have to step back into history. The design of the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for decades by the time 1978 rolled around. The obverse, or the front of the coin, still bore the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner way back in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1978, Americans had already grown up with this image of Lincoln as a constant in their pockets and purses. But even something as familiar as a penny can hold unexpected mysteries. Let's take a moment to reflect on the time period. The late 1970s were years of transition in the United States. The nation was recovering from the effects of the Vietnam War, adjusting to political scandals of the earlier decade, and facing economic challenges like inflation and unemployment. Every penny truly mattered to families trying to stretch their budgets. And through it all, the humble Lincoln cent was there, jingling in pockets, paying for candy bars, covering bus fares, and filling up piggy banks. The 1978 penny, at its core, was struck primarily in copper. Unlike the pennies of later years that transitioned to a zinc-based composition in 1982, the coins of this era were solid copper and carried a distinctive weight and color. Collectors love this earlier copper composition because it feels more substantial, more authentic, and it connects directly to America's older coinage traditions. On the reverse side of the coin, the design featured the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design that had replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse back in 1959. If you take a close look with a magnifying glass, you can even spot the tiny outline of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, a detail so small it often surprises people when they first discover it. This intricate artistry is one of the reasons why collectors continue to admire these coins, even decades later, but the real intrigue begins when we start talking about condition and rarity. Most of the 1978 pennies that remain today are heavily circulated. They've been scratched, dulled, and worn down from years of everyday use. But in rare cases, some have survived in pristine condition, untouched, and preserved with all their original luster. A penny that shines brightly with no marks, full details on Lincoln's portrait, and sharp edges on the Lincoln Memorial can fetch far more than just 1 cent. Now add in the possibility of errors. During mass production at the U.S. Mint, mistakes can and do happen. A double die error might cause the date or lettering to look doubled, which excites collectors tremendously. An off-center strike where part of the design is missing can transform an ordinary penny into a highly desirable rarity. Even misaligned dies, repunched mint marks, or coins struck on the wrong planchet have been reported in various years, and each of these unusual features can send collectors into a frenzy. For the 1978 Lincoln cent, error coins are among the most hunted, and they often bring jaw-dropping prices when discovered. Think about it like this: billions of pennies were minted in 1978, yet only a small fraction of them hold this kind of hidden potential. That's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The idea that one small coin sitting unnoticed in a change jar, or tucked away in a roll of pennies, could be a rare treasure worth thousands is enough to keep collectors searching tirelessly. Let's imagine for a moment that you are going through an old jar of coins, maybe one handed down by a parent or grandparent. You pour the coins out and see a mix of dates. Suddenly your eye catches a bright, reddish penny dated 1978. You take a closer look, the strike is sharp, the details crisp, and maybe, just maybe, you notice something unusual in the lettering or the date. In that instant, your heart races as you realize you could be holding something far more valuable than just a simple cent. That moment of discovery is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. Beyond the thrill of discovery, there's also the sense of history. Every coin, including the 1978 Lincoln penny, carries with it a silent record of the time it was made. This coin has lived through more than 4 decades of American history. It has passed through countless hands, been present during millions of everyday moments, and yet, in its rarest forms, it has managed to remain untouched, preserved as though it were waiting for the right collector to notice it. Collectors love these stories. They don't just see a coin as a piece of metal, but as a window into another time. And when a coin combines that historical connection with extreme rarity and pristine condition, its value can rise to extraordinary levels. So just how extraordinary are we talking about? While most 1978 Lincoln cents are worth only their face value, or perhaps a modest premium in high grades, there exists a special class of these coins, the ones that are flawless, preserved, and sometimes showcasing rare minting anomalies. These are the coins that move from being ordinary pennies to true treasures in the eyes of collectors, and here's the moment you've been waiting for. One of these rare 1978 Lincoln pennies, preserved in exceptional condition and valued for its remarkable quality, has reached the unbelievable price of $55,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $55,000 for a single penny struck in 1978. A coin that most people would overlook as spare change has proven to be worth more than some people's yearly salary. It's almost hard to believe, but it's true, and it's what keeps coin collectors on the hunt for that next incredible find. So the next time you spot a 1978 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely, check for condition, check for errors, and keep in mind that what you hold in your hand could be so much more than just 1 cent. It could be a piece of American history, and possibly, a fortune waiting to be discovered. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1975. At first glance, it may look like just another penny you might pass over in your pocket change, but as we peel back the layers of history, design, minting details, and hidden rarity, you'll quickly see that this coin is not just copper, it's a piece of American history and, for some lucky collectors, a doorway to an incredible fortune. So don't blink, because every detail matters when it comes to spotting a treasure hiding in plain sight. The Lincoln cent has been a cornerstone of U.S. currency since 1909, when it was first introduced to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin became the first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person, and it has been in circulation ever since. By the time we reach 1975, the Lincoln penny had already witnessed decades of history, survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and countless cultural shifts, but it still carried the same familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, keeping continuity with American tradition while adapting to the needs of a new era. The obverse of the 1975 penny shows Lincoln's bust facing right, with the word Liberty inscribed to the left and the date to the right. Above his head, the powerful motto, "In God We Trust," serves as a reminder of American values and resilience. On the reverse side, we find the iconic image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely at the reverse of these coins, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a miniature within a miniature, showcasing just how much artistry went into the creation of this small coin. Surrounding the design are the words United States of America and 1 cent, along with the phrase E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1975 Lincoln penny stand out from the rest. By this time, pennies were still being struck primarily in a bronze composition, 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gave the coins a heavier weight and a rich reddish-brown color when freshly minted. However, the year 1975 was just a few short years before the U.S. Mint would make a major transition to copper-plated zinc cents in 1982, meaning the 1975 issue belongs to one of the last generations of true copper pennies. Collectors cherish these coins not just for their design but also for their metal composition, which ties them to America's long coinage tradition. The condition of these coins is a huge factor in determining their value. Most 1975 pennies you'll come across in circulation today are worn, scratched, and dull from decades of use in pocket change, vending machines, and piggy banks. But the key lies in finding examples that are in pristine condition, those graded mint state with sharp details, strong luster, and no major flaws. Coins like this are rare because very few people thought to set aside brand new pennies back in 1975. And when it comes to coin collecting, rarity plus condition equals value, but that's not all. Errors and varieties are another thrilling part of the story. Some 1975 Lincoln cents are known to feature double dies, where the inscriptions or details appear slightly doubled due to a striking mishap at the mint. These errors can turn an ordinary penny into something highly desirable. There are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other unusual minting mistakes that collectors are always on the hunt for. Each unique error increases the appeal and can push the price of a coin far beyond what anyone would expect for a simple cent. Another layer of intrigue comes from the different mints that produced the 1975 penny. The Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at the time, struck millions of these coins, while the Denver Mint used the letter D, and San Francisco produced proof coins with the S mint mark. Proof coins, in particular, stand out because they were specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets, giving them mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. A proof 1975 Lincoln penny kept in flawless condition can be an absolute showstopper in any collection. For coin collectors, the thrill isn't just in the history or the artistry, it's in the chase. Imagine picking up an old coin jar or finding some change left behind in a drawer and suddenly spotting a shiny or unusual penny. Could it be one of the special 1975 pennies worth far more than face value? That's what makes this hobby so exciting, the possibility that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. And this is where it gets really exciting. While most 1975 pennies are only worth a few cents or perhaps a few dollars in uncirculated condition, there have been rare and exceptional examples that shocked collectors at auction. These coins, thanks to their perfect condition, unique errors, or other rare characteristics, have commanded jaw-dropping prices when they finally appeared under the spotlight. And that brings us to the incredible highlight of this story. One very special United States of America 1 cent Lincoln penny from 1975, in extraordinary condition, with all the rarity factors aligning perfectly, sold for an astonishing $50,000. So the next time you come across a penny from 1975, don't dismiss it as just another copper coin. Look closer, check for sharp details, unusual errors, and flawless surfaces, because hidden among the billions are those few remarkable treasures. And who knows, you might just be holding a small piece of history that could change your life. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the history, design, and Hidden Secrets of the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1966. At first glance, it may seem like just another coin that has passed through countless hands over the decades, but when we look closer, we uncover an incredible tale of artistry, rarity, and potential treasure that makes this coin one of the most intriguing finds for collectors and coin hunters everywhere. Stay with me until the very end, because this is the kind of story that could change the way you look at pennies forever. The Lincoln cent has been around since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin series in American history. It was originally created to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the very first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person, marking a revolutionary shift in American coinage. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny has become an iconic part of everyday life, a coin that almost everyone in America has touched, yet so few stop to realize how much history is hidden in its tiny surface. By the time we reach 1966, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for more than 50 years, carrying with it not only the image of a great president but also the resilience of a nation. The year 1966 holds a special place in American coinage history. This was right in the middle of a turbulent decade filled with political change, cultural revolutions, and economic shifts. At the Mint, this was also a time of experimentation and transition. The United States Mint was under pressure due to coin shortages in the early 1960s, and to meet public demand, they were making significant adjustments in coin production. During this period, the Mint even suspended the use of mint marks in order to discourage people from hoarding coins based on where they were struck. That's why if you look at a 1966 Lincoln penny, you won't see a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. Every coin from this year was struck without a mint mark. The obverse of the 1966 penny carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the motto, "In God We Trust," above him, the word liberty to his left, and the date 1966 to his right. It's a simple yet powerful design that has stood the test of time. On the reverse, we find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which had replaced the original wheat ears design in 1959. Look closely at the memorial on the back, and you'll see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside, a detail so small and intricate that it takes careful eyes to notice. This kind of craftsmanship shows how much effort and pride went into creating even the smallest denomination of U.S. currency. The composition of the 1966 penny is also significant. These coins were struck in a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This heavier copper-based composition gives the coin a richness in color and a durability that has allowed many examples to survive in circulation for decades. It's very different from the lighter, cheaper copper-plated zinc pennies that began in 1982, which is why collectors often value these earlier bronze cents much more highly. Now let's talk about what makes certain 1966 Lincoln pennies stand out from the billions that were minted. The first factor is condition. Coins that are found in pristine, uncirculated condition, with strong mint luster, sharp strike details, and no scratches or signs of wear, are incredibly rare today. Most of the 1966 pennies you'll encounter have spent over half a century in circulation, picking up nicks, dings, and tarnish along the way. But those few that were carefully preserved, tucked away in rolls, sets, or collections, can command surprising prices among collectors. Another fascinating part of the story is minting errors and varieties. While the mint was producing massive numbers of coins to meet public demand, mistakes inevitably slipped through. Some 1966 pennies display dramatic errors such as double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears doubled, or off-center strikes where part of the design is missing due to misalignment. There are even coins struck on faulty or clipped planchets, which give them unusual shapes or missing portions. Each of these minting mistakes turns an ordinary penny into something unique and highly collectible. For collectors, these errors are like fingerprints, no two are exactly alike, and the rarity only increases their value. Proof-like and special mint set coins from this era also deserve attention. In 1965, 1966, and 1967, the Mint didn't produce traditional proof coins but instead released what were called special mint sets. These coins were struck with extra care and often display sharper details and smoother surfaces than regular circulation strikes. A 1966 penny from a special mint set in flawless condition can be particularly desirable, especially if it exhibits strong cameo contrast between the frosted devices and the mirror-like background. So why does this matter to you as a collector or even just someone curious about coins? Because treasures are still out there. Imagine digging through an old change jar, opening a box of coins passed down from family, or even just checking your spare change after a purchase, and suddenly spotting a shiny, unusually crisp 1966 penny. If it happens to be one of the rare varieties, in perfect condition, or even with a striking mint error, you could be holding a coin worth far more than a single cent. The world of coin collecting thrives on these discoveries. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that combine rarity, condition, and historical importance. Auctions across the country have proven time and again that even the humble penny can command prices that shock and amaze. And the 1966 Lincoln penny is no exception to this rule, which brings us to the most exciting part of today's journey. While most 1966 Lincoln pennies are worth only a few cents or perhaps a couple of dollars in uncirculated condition, there are those rare and extraordinary examples that break all expectations. One particular coin, preserved in exceptional quality and embodying the rarity collectors dream about, achieved an unbelievable auction price. That coin sold for an incredible $97,000. So the next time you come across a 1966 Lincoln penny, don't overlook it. Examine it carefully, because you never know, you just might be holding a piece of American history that carries far more than sentimental value. And as we've seen, the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing discovery could be hiding right there in the palm of your hand. Today, we are exploring the fascinating story of the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1980, a coin that may seem common but hides incredible secrets. Stick with me all the way to the end, because the value I reveal might just shock you and make you want to start checking every single penny you come across. The Lincoln Cent series is one of the most beloved in American numismatics. First issued in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin broke tradition by being the very first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real historical figure. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin showcased the bold and dignified image of Lincoln himself, a lasting tribute to one of America's greatest leaders. Over time, the penny underwent changes, particularly on the reverse design, which shifted from the wheat ears in 1909 to 1958 to the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959. By the time we get to 1980, the Lincoln penny had already become one of the most recognizable and collected coins in circulation. The year 1980 was an interesting one for the U.S. Mint and for coin collectors. The economy was facing inflation, everyday goods were rising in price, and yet the humble penny remained an essential part of daily life. Millions of these coins were produced in Philadelphia and Denver, and you'll notice the mint marks P or D depending on where they were struck. Philadelphia, interestingly, had just begun using the P mint mark on coins like nickels in 1980, though not yet on pennies, so if you see a 1980 penny without a mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Coins with a D mint mark came from Denver, and both versions are part of the collector's hunt today. Now let's look at the design more closely. On the obverse, we see Abraham Lincoln's classic right-facing profile. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left the word liberty, and to the right the date 1980 along with the mint mark if applicable. It's a simple design, but one filled with meaning. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the famous Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This design was introduced in 1959 to honor Lincoln's 150th birthday, and it's full of hidden details. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside the memorial between the columns, a miniature within the larger tribute. The reverse also bears the words United States of America, the motto E pluribus unum, and the denomination 1 cent. Composition plays an important role in the story of the 1980 penny. Unlike today's pennies, which are mostly made of zinc with a thin copper plating, the 1980 pennies were struck from a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This gives them a heavier weight and a richer color, and it also makes them more desirable to collectors. In fact, if you ever hold a pre-1982 penny in one hand and a post 1982 penny in the other, you can actually feel the difference in weight. Collectors often treasure these copper-rich pennies, not only for their historical value but also because of the intrinsic value of the metal itself. But what makes some 1980 Lincoln pennies truly stand out are their errors, varieties, and conditions. While billions of these coins were minted, only a tiny percentage came out with rare mistakes. Some of the most valuable 1980 pennies are double-die varieties, where parts of the design, like the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, appear doubled due to misalignment during the striking process. These double dies are among the most sought-after coins in the series, and collectors will pay high premiums for a well-defined example. Other errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, broad strikes where the coin spreads out unnaturally, and even coins struck on the wrong planchets, which can be incredibly rare and valuable. Condition, of course, is another factor. The vast majority of 1980 pennies have been through decades of circulation, showing scratches, wear, and discoloration. But those rare coins that were preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially with a high mint state grade from professional grading services, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of times their face value. Collectors are particularly drawn to coins with strong luster, sharp strike details, and minimal blemishes. Proof-like examples and coins from mint sets add even more excitement to the chase, since their superior quality sets them apart from the billions of ordinary circulation strikes. So how do you know if your 1980 penny might be valuable? First, check its overall condition. If it looks unusually sharp and shiny, it may be worth setting aside. Next, examine it carefully under good light or even a magnifying glass to look for doubling, errors, or unusual features. If you think you've spotted something special, getting the coin authenticated and graded by a professional service can unlock its true market value. Collectors and dealers often use these grades to establish fair prices at auctions and private sales. The world of rare coins is full of stories of people discovering hidden treasures in the most unexpected places: old piggy banks, jars of change passed down through generations, or even pocket change received at the grocery store. And the 1980 Lincoln penny has proven to be one of those coins capable of delivering big surprises. While most are still worth just 1 cent, those rare gems in top condition, with errors or varieties, have sold for shocking amounts. And now, here's the part you've been waiting for: the incredible value reveal. While most collectors see the 1980 penny as common, there has been an extraordinary example that broke all expectations at auction. This remarkable coin, preserved in exceptional quality and embodying everything collectors dream about, reached an astonishing price of $58,000. So the next time you come across a 1980 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it as ordinary pocket change. Take a closer look. You never know if you're holding a little piece of copper history that could change your life. After all, the thrill of coin collecting lies in the possibility that the treasure hiding in plain sight might just be sitting right in the palm of your hand.